things will be returning back to normal.
Many manufacturers in Vietnam are struggling to secure the raw materials they need to remain operational. Walter Blocker founded Vietnam Trade Alliance in 1994. It's one of the first American consumer-based companies to set up in Vietnam right when the trade embargo was lifted. His businesses are starting to feel the pinch of the COVID-19 outbreak.
Our shipments into Vietnam, and it's not perfectly measured yet, but they're down about 50%. Now, part of that is the halo from our Tet holiday, from our Tet period, Chinese New Year. We call it Tet in Vietnam. And second is the fact that a lot of things aren't flowing, which will delay factories running in full production potentially. Many of them, we believe, will not have the components they need to run continuously, and that will interrupt the supply chain as a knock-on effect.
Vietnam Trade Alliance is a holding firm with 9 operating companies in businesses that include furniture, beer and beverage, food, insurance, advertising, and digital consumer research. And with such a vast portfolio, it's a mixed bag when it comes to the impact of COVID-19 on his businesses.
For our beer business, people are gathering less, spending less time in traditional venues where in our tropical climate people like to enjoy being together. Now, we've been fortunate because other parts of the business have picked up from that, but for sure our beverage business has been affected. Our energy drink business has been affected because people have been delayed going back to work. Our furniture business today sources much of its componentry from non-China sources, so we've been able to run production there, and the demand for our furniture hasn't been affected. Our research company has also received many inquiries. We're doing a lot of deep dive analysis in the population to understand what the mental effect of this is.
Despite all this, Walter Blocker hopes that COVID-19 may just be causing a brief setback for Vietnam. He thinks that the country is resilient and is sure to bounce back to capitalize on the gains of the trade war.
Vietnam has the largest trading relationship with the United States than any other country in Southeast Asia. When I was a young chairman of the American Chamber in 2001, two-way trade between the U.S. and Vietnam was $1.5 billion. Last year, it was closer to $60 billion. That's amazing growth.
Cyberspace, the next frontier in warfare.
We are facing threats and malicious actors from the entire world.
A battle against unknown enemies.
If the hacker group is sophisticated enough, they will target multiple organizations.
Everyone is a target.
Our strongest defense as a nation is collective defense when every one of us play our part.
Secret Wars, the cybersecurity dilemma. Sunday on CNA.
Siapa nama kamu? Di mana awak tinggal?
Tonight, central banks act fast to stem the economic fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic.
To make sure there isn't a credit crunch.
Looking for alternatives after supply chain disruptions.
We have actually started dual sourcing or even triple sourcing.
And the business of aging well.
Technology to do things which today they may be reliant on other people.
Tonight on CNA.
In life, you might make a bad choice. Chase the wrong dream. Or time your actions badly. But good advice can make a lifetime of difference. The right decisions at the right time with QNB.
In the finale of Gadget, I face my biggest challenge yet. I Preston Lynn, champion of technology, have to seek out tech solutions for a granny with dementia who prefers things the good old-fashioned way. Honestly, I think I'm in a bit of a pickle. Gadget, Monday on CNA.
Myanmar opening its doors to the world, but still much work is needed. The journey hasn't been easy, with pressure from within and without. Twists and turns line the way, but even when it's down, this country never stops trying. This is a country that can bank on its people. People who have the power to chart Myanmar's path, and people who have stories to tell the world.
Into the World Trade Organization in 2001 sparked its rapid growth, making it the world's factory. The country today thrives as a manufacturing powerhouse, and its economy has become integrated into global value chains since 2003. It is the most important industrial producer as it sells more manufacturing goods than any other country in the world.
China has a dominant position in global supply chains. This is because of China's history of having low wages when we had the very high levels of rural-urban migration, that export-based manufacturing in the coast. China, like Vietnam, also had a very good education system, so the quality of workers you were getting for the wage rate was very strong and very attractive for international manufacturers. At the same time, globalization meant that international transport costs were coming down as a share of the product price, and China has this large domestic market, which also makes it attractive.
But the dominance of China in manufacturing became the Trump administration's biggest problem. And Trump targeted the US trade deficit with China, which grew to about $375 billion in 2017. According to Trump, this was hindering US economic growth. So he made reducing the trade deficit a priority by promoting the Buy American policy.
We are going to make our country great again.
Since 2018, the US and China have been locked in a bitter trade battle, and the diplomatic relations between two of the world's largest economies has gone downhill. The dispute has seen the US and China impose tariffs on billions of dollars worth of one another's goods.
America's had a trade deficit for 40 straight years. It has a trade deficit with 98 countries bilaterally, long before China became a global power. Obviously, China did not cause this trade problem. A country has a trade deficit because it spends more than it produces. It borrows. And why does America borrow so much? It's because American households don't save much. They spend beyond their income levels.
It's a view that having a trade deficit with other countries means that there's less employment and manufacturing profits that they can obtain from having it within the US. I think it's very much, it's part of his trade policy, part of his sort of platform of, make America great again, improve that sort of manufacturing sector. So hence there's been that sort of very big focus on trade, and it's quite popular, at least in terms of, the moves he's made with China.
It's a bit misleading, of course, to gauge trade policy just on simple surpluses or deficits overall, and a lot of that comes down to how you measure the value of that trade.
The US trade tariffs in Trump's trade war came in multiple stages over the course of 2 years. And Trump was emboldened by America's economic strength and China's economic slowdown, and was prepared to tax all imports.
This trade war is also misguided. People think it's about trade. We think it's about manufacturing. Open up or liberalize its services. More open China would allow much more investment in services in China, and Americans have a comparative advantage in that area, and that is a key issue.
But even as Trump's measures were increasingly hurting China, and as a knock-on effect, damaging the global economy, Vietnam emerged as a clear winner in the long drawn-out trade war.
So when the trade war started, first Vietnam was already well positioned, not only geographically because of its